everyone. Thank you for inviting me to class. Some of you may have seen this program before. It does get used quite a lot, particularly around the end of the semester when people realize they may be going for an interview or they may be actually having some interaction with people. Why is it important? It's very easy for companies, for individuals, for potential in-laws even, to analyze you on paper. We can look at your GPA, we can look at your scores, we can quantify your abilities quite quickly, quite easily, and we can give you a ranking. And then, once that objective data is taken care of, we can invite you face-to-face. And once we get face-to-face with people, that's when we can bring in subjective factors. Subjective factors are not fair. They are not necessarily based on anything other than our interaction with people. One of the biggest subjective interactions we can have is how you behave and how your manners are and what are your etiquette is. What are those skill sets? Because oftentimes people overlook those, and if you overlook it at the wrong time, it counts against you for a long time. I teach in the hospitality program. We do a lot of restaurant reviews, and when you do review a restaurant, typically if you have a good meal, you'll tell 1 or 2 people. Have a bad meal, you'll tell 9 or 10. The same thing goes for your reputation. People who've never even met you don't want to deal with you because they've heard from somebody else that you're not particularly pleasant, you're rude, you're impatient. All of those type of things will count against you. So try in every interaction to give the best possible vision of what you are as a person and how you interact with people, because that is what's going to actually resonate and make people feel that you're someone that they'd like to include. Etiquette itself in German means a label, so think of it as how you're labeled. And once that label is attached, it tends to stick and it tends to stay. And it is very hard to change your reputation later on. So what you may think of something that's casual here today, you're out at a restaurant, people at the next table may be people that tomorrow you end up interviewing with. And they say, oh yes, I think I saw you at Harry's last night. Oh, really? So again, reputations do catch up with you. In terms of etiquette and manners and the events that we put on, obviously a lot of those start out with invitations. And while we talk about dining today, one of the areas that we really would like to encourage on campus, we'd actually like to encourage something contagious. Now I know that for you in this particular class, contagions are things that you want to really discourage and you want to avoid contagious things. But a contagious thing that we'd love to encourage is courtesy. Looking out for other people. So many people on campus are totally in their own little bubble, and they're unaware of anyone else or the other 34,967 people who happen to be around them at any time. And so looking out for other people, being contagiously courteous to other people is something that will really, really work forever. And I mean by courtesy, being contagious, holding doors open for people. When you walk into a building, stop, look behind you. Someone 6 feet or less, stop and hold the door. Then, once you're in, imagine you're sitting in the front of the class, and the person that you held the door open for downstairs okay. I don't think there is any more light. I think they took the bulbs out in the old days to sort of save electricity. So we're doing something for the planet. You may just not be able to see. But anyway. But courtesies, like holding doors open for people. You're sitting in front of the class. The person who you held the door open for is introduced as your guest speaker. How much better will you feel when that person says, oh, thanks for doing that. That was great. Rather than, oh, yes, we met downstairs. Thanks for avoiding me. So, again, little gestures like that. Or elevators. This building obviously doesn't have a particularly tall elevator, but if you're over in Granite, that elevator is very, very slow. So just as you get in the elevator, glance behind you, someone else dashing for it, hold the door. Much better than seeing that person's face about 10 minutes later upstairs. Oh, yeah. So, again, all of these things count. One of the best things you can do in terms of etiquette is impress people who will do absolutely nothing for you in life. If you can impress those people, then the people that can help you on your way up are going to be very easy for you to work over. But if you can impress the people who can do nothing for you in life, it's a great skill. So, back to invitations. We need to obviously invite people. A lot of times these days we do it electronically or we do it by phone. But an invitation includes certain pertinent pieces of information. Who's doing the inviting? If you invite, always put a name. Make it personal, make it real. Then, what are you inviting me to? Lunch, tea, dinner, reception. Tell me what to expect when I get there. Then give me a reason why we're having the event in the first place. If I sent you an invitation tomorrow saying, President Mitch Daniels cordially invites you to dinner, I guarantee you it'll be, did you get the invitation? What's it for? Why does he want me? Does he need more money? What's going on? So tell people up front, what's the event about? Give them a frame of reference. You're more likely to say, oh yes, I'd love to go to that event. We have an event next Tuesday. Dr. McGlothlin's going because it's about chocolate. Oh yes, I'd love to go to that. I don't see Mitch Daniels, but there's chocolate. Okay. So, again, give people a reason. Then the next thing we need to know is when should we be there? You're all timetabled very well right now. But in social aspects, there's a little bit more of a gray area. So we tell people when we need them to be there. So put the day first and the time. You look on your calendar, that's the way you do it, that's the way it works. Then, where should I be? You feel very comfortable right now at the end of the semester because you know where all of your classes are. You don't have to worry about it. But that very first day you came to school, where's Matthews? So you're out of your context. You've traveled. You go to conferences out of town. You feel far more comfortable knowing what room you're asking for because then you can stop anyone in the hallway and get some direction. So give people all the information they need. When we write invitations, use as few words as possible. Clean, clear, quick, easy to understand. Bottom left-hand corner, 4 letters you absolutely need to be familiar with. RSVP. Everyone seen them? Has everyone done it? I guarantee not. RSVP requires you to tell me you can come. It requires me to tell you you can't come. But it requires you to tell me something. We have a dinner tonight at Westwood. 109 people were invited. 54 people have said yes. 23 people have said no. And then there's the void. So, I'm talking to Chef. Do I need to prepare for 73? Do I need to prepare for 54? Do I set tables for 54 and then have extra people show up? So, do your host a favor. Call and let them know. And the other thing you will run into, particularly as you host events, is that people will say yes and then just not show up. There's a common theme of people just not bothering anymore. They think, it doesn't matter. Now, if you're in the non-profit world, and you have said yes to a dinner, and there is a place setting for you, a meal for you, and you don't show up, that's money that's been wasted that could have been used in a much better context. So, think about the fact that if you've committed, stick with the plan. No Katy Perry, yes, then you know. It's yes. Okay. Now, if you woke up this morning and you had a very bad cold, or you had what you considered, because you've just been to Columbus, that you're going down with the mumps, please call me and say, unfortunately, I'm not feeling well, so I will not be attending. Nothing is worse than going to an event and sitting next to someone. Yeah, I'm really glad I came. And then we say, oh, yeah, we are too. Good. Thank you. So, you are not indispensable. If it's a conference, you can call in. You don't have to be there. So, do the rest of the world a favor and keep your germs at home and not spread them to other people if you have that opportunity. But at least let us know what's going on. The other piece of information that's always on an invitation helps you with parking, and it may tell you what to wear. We tend to assimilate. We have looked at your resume. We've read your cover letter. We may have called a professor or two to find out what you're really like. We've got your references, and we've got a picture built up. When you walk through that door, you have to match what I was expecting. And a lot of times we do that just in terms of clothing, because we expect a certain level of attire and appearance. If you're not sure what to wear, go online to the company's website before you go for the interview. See what people are wearing on a regular basis. If you're familiar with the space and the place, drive by one morning and see what people wear to work, because that will help you fit in. Because that's what we're looking for, is people who fit. If you give us a reason as you come in, or anything else that you do while we interact, that gives me reasons to put on the no column, I'm more likely to say no to you. So again, attire is something that we use as a method of filtering. Some of the terms we can use: business attire. You'll see students going to career fairs all the time dressed in business suits. And you can tell the ones who bought their business suit well in advance and got used to wearing it. Turn up next week for class wearing a business attire. As you walk in, I guess half your classmates will go, do we have a presentation? Did Did I miss a memo? Was I supposed to dress up? But what it'll do is get you used to doing it, because the more familiar you are with it, the easier it's going to become, and you'll feel much more comfortable in it. You can tell the people who went yesterday to buy a suit for the interview today, they feel uncomfortable, they don't look well presented, and they miss out on details. I'll see students walking up the hill, Chauncey Mall sometimes. Nice suit, decent tie, they step up off the curb, up come pant leg, white sock. Whole effect ruined, right? Because amazingly enough, people do concentrate on details. As you walk through the door, people have gone top to toe. Not necessarily obviously, but they have, yep, it all works. Or, yeah, it doesn't work. So, keep an eye on those details. Make sure that everything is in place and everything is done up correctly, or that could be a problem later on. So, attire is something we care about. Casual, yes, you do casual extremely well. Right? My generation calls them pajamas. You managed to get away with them as lounge pants, but basically you got out of bed and came to class. Okay. Business casual. Nobody has any idea. Overdress better than underdress is always a good plan, because you can always take off a jacket if no one else is wearing one. But if you go in no jacket, no tie, and everyone else is in a suit, you feel out of place. Okay. Arrival. When should you be there? Timing is important. We are aware of punctuality. We tend in Indiana to arrive early for things. I'm not quite sure why. People think they're going to run out of food or they're going to miss out on something. Going to Westwood, don't be too early. Drives Mitch crazy. Yesterday, he got home for an event that started at 4. He arrived at 12 minutes to 4. There were already 15 cars in his driveway. Not a happy camper. Okay, so try not to be too early. If you're going for an interview or a meeting, be 5 minutes early at the most, because otherwise you throw off everyone else's schedule. So we do care about timing. Now, sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we're not on time. We're carrying one of these. You may have it turned off right now, hopefully. But if not, you can use it and actually call and say to someone, I'm running late, please go ahead without me. It's a courtesy. It's a nice gesture, and people can then make a decision. Do I start without you, or do I go ahead or make everyone else wait? But at least we know what's going on. When you arrive at an event, many times there's a receiving line. Receiving lines are popular. They allow you to meet the prospective people very quickly. The problem with receiving lines, they take time. We've all been to weddings. And then when you get there, what are you going to say? Nice dress, beautiful day, lovely ceremony. What's the point? So receiving lines to me are a waste of time. Lines form for no apparent reason. One person stops, another person stops behind them, and suddenly you've got a line of people. Nobody knows why they've lined up, but there's a line. I'll join it. In 2012 in London, the British would have won the gold for a line joining any time, any event. The British are probably the best queuers in the world. Right? They will queue for things, and then when they get to the end of the queue, oh, that's not the line I wanted, but it's nice talking to you. Off we go and join another one. So again, no. But if there is a receiving line, move through it as quickly as possible. Nice to be here. Good to see you. Thanks for including me in. Another thing that people often will do is, give you a name tag. Name tags are useful, but don't rely on them. Do, if you can, start to remember people's names and remember things about people. Facts. Even if you have to build up a spreadsheet of your clients or your company contacts, all of those type of things, people appreciate being remembered. People appreciate you remembering things about them. And it also helps you vitally later when you're making small talk and conversation. Because if you can bring up things that are of interest to the people you're talking to, there's much more of a bond that's going to take place. Name tags, as I say, pre-made, wonderful. If you are going to write your own, which occasionally you have to, and if you write your own at Westwood, it means I didn't know you were coming. So that means you didn't RSVP, so you are on the standout list. And everyone that said, didn't RSVP. Okay. One day I'm going to get all the people who didn't RSVP, just wait, seat all the people who RSVP'd, and then turn and say, I'm sorry, we don't have any room. Bye-bye. So, if you have to write your own name tag, please make sure someone can actually read it. Now, some of you may be going to pharmaceutical areas. Pharmacists and doctors do have this strange scripting that nobody else on the planet can read, but generally for a name tag, we would like to know who you are. If you do write your name, put more than one name. You're the Anthony, I've always wanted to meet you. How do you know which one I am? So again, make it clear, make it easy, and put your name tag on your right side. Why? Because when you shake hands, eye follows arm and comes to the rests on the right side of the body. Even if you wanted to be an undercover agent, this isn't going to help. Nobody's going to come along and say, hi, how are you? So again. Now, we live in a very media-savvy age, which is good and bad. People are taking pictures of us all the time, mentally and physically. And we could be on CCTV right now. So remember that everything you do could be recorded and used against you in the future. We're recording this right now, so everything that I say will be used against me in the future. But people do like to... We had the wife of the Agriculture Secretary for breakfast this morning at Mrs. Christy Vilsack. And so, Mitch wants to Twitter a picture of her, so he gets out the camera, tweet, picture goes. But again, if somebody takes a picture or points a camera at you, take this off and hide it. Smile. Because when that goes live on Instagram, Twitter, Vine, Snapchat, whatever else it happens to appear on, you're going to feel far less geeky without the name tag. And Justin Timberlake did not sing "Now I've Got My Suit and Tie" at the name tag. So again, it's not always vital. Okay. One of the areas that we probably interact with people the most physically, and the area that we probably need to be most concerned about in terms of your aspect, is the greetings. Handshakes are probably the only physical interaction we have with our business colleagues, hopefully. So handshaking is an important aspect of that meet and greet. It's always nice to say, "I'd like to meet you." Look like you're ready to meet people. Be willing to do that. And if you think about it, success is in your grasp, and your grasp needs to be warm, dry, clean, pleasant. Now, you've all shaken hands with people whose handshake is anything but those four things. E, none of the above. Weird, damp, strange, clammy. Yes. You don't remember that person's name, but if somebody, yes, that handshake, I remember that. It's weird. So, have a good handshake. Practice your handshake. Often we're too far apart and you get just fingers. Very hard to shake fingers. So make sure that that handshake comes out and it's a nice, warm, dry. Now, if you are nervous, you have clothing. You potentially have a napkin. You can dry off your fingers before you present them. Because if you are shaking hands with a damp, clammy hand, it's a bit like handing someone a wet fish. It feels very uncomfortable. So, again, nice. We said we have receiving lines. At Westwood, we tend to speed up receiving lines by making people move. And usually we use bait, and bait often comes in a glass. It says, "Come to me, come to me," and it works pretty well. So I have my servers there with a tray of glasses. People move. Problem with people is once they move and they get what they want, they stop. I'm fine. I've got what I need. I'm in your way. Whatever. So generally if somebody says to you more than once, "Excuse me," perhaps you're in the way. Move. People stand in doorways. Very safe if there's going to be an earthquake, but we are in central Indiana. So again, move out of the way. Typically, if you've got that napkin and you've got your glass, it is in your left hand so that your right hand is free to shake hands. Be ready to shake hands. When you go to that interview, don't overburden yourself with things. You'll see a lot of students going to career fairs with a nice portfolio. Look great. Problem is you're going to have to shake hands and suddenly you have to juggle all this stuff. And so, again, if you don't need it, don't take it, because the more freedom you have to move around, the easier it's going to be for you. Right hand not doing anything. Gentlemen, you're far likely to do this. Yes, it's warm, it's safe, it's comfortable. But it's going to slow down your reaction to shake hands with people. Plus, once our hands go into our pockets, tend to slouch. Next thing you'll be doing is leaning on things, which produces about 80% of your visual impact. So, stay standing, hands ready to go. During a reception, resist the temptation, even if I've provided them, of sitting down. Once you sat down, you pretty much anchored yourself in one place. You're now saying to people, if you'd like to talk to me, you can see people. Can't talk to them. So again, stay standing, moving around. Typically during a reception, we offer you food. Now, one thing to think about is, once you've shaken hands with a lot of people, then if you can have an opportunity either to Purell or to step into the restroom, wash your hands, and then start eating. Because if you've shaken hands with a large variety of people, you don't then want to start picking up food, because that is an easy way for you to transfer germs and bacteria. I worked at Iowa State in Extension. We did the Farm Progress Show every 5 years. We did a booth, and we sprayed lots of items on our booth with invisible, ultraviolet visible paint. And we had people shaking hands as they walked through the crowd, and then we had them come up to a black light box, and we said, look at your hands. And they all had this green, glowing fingers. And we said, that's how easy it is for you to pick up germs as you walk around and you talk to people and you pick up a newspaper, you handle money, you handle food. So think about that and divide your time. If you're doing a lot of handshaking, do that first, then sanitize before you start eating. Once we've got that food option of the reception food, we have two methods of getting it to you. We can have a buffet. Buffets are all well and good, but they tend to act as magnets. People get to them and they stick. Surprisingly, the buffet was for everyone in the room, not just you. So take some food and move away. Having done that, though, you probably now armed yourself with a plate. So you've got a glass in this hand and a plate in this hand. Someone comes up to you and wants to shake hands, what are they going to do? Shake plates? So I advise you strongly to be able to handle everything in one hand. So you've got your plate, your napkin, your fork, and your glass. You can walk and eat, drink, use the napkin, and 90% of the time your right hand's still free to shake hands. Plus, without putting it on your resume, you just told everyone in the room you could multitask, and you do it well. Because you look good. Everything you need is right here. And you're controlled, and you're in control of the situation. Now, you may practice tonight at home with your roommates, and they think, weird. That roommate, you go to the same reception, will be the one going, typically at Westwood, we try not to do the buffets unless we absolutely have to. And so typically we'll have service come to you with the food on a platter. You don't have a plate, but you need to pretend as if you did. So from platter, imaginary plate, mouth. 1, 2, 3, not 1, 2, 1, 2. Again, you're picking up things with your fingers. Don't touch anyone else's food. Just take the one you own. No, that one. No, that one. No, that one. So again, think ahead about the fact that other people are going to have to deal with this too. Now, appetizers are not easy to eat. We in the hospitality industry love to watch you fail. That's why we use garnishes. That's why we balance things on top. That's why we invented phyllo pastry. Because you bite it. So look at it and say, can I eat this neatly, cleanly, easily? If the answer is no to any of those questions, simply say, I think I'll pass. You don't want to be wearing it. You don't want to be standing in a circle of phyllo pastry crumbs. You don't want it dribbling down your chin. So again, think ahead. Shrimp, again, a popular appetizer, hanging beautifully off the side of that champagne glass. You pick it up by the tail, dip it in some. I love it. So, again, what's your exit procedure? Some appetizers bigger than they should be. A whole egg roll offered to you. Yes, it would fit in one go. Should it? No. Because that is exactly the time that someone will come up to you and say, have you met Things on sticks, remarkably easy to pick up. No greasy fingers. But you now own the stick. A surprising number of people will try and put that stick back on the platter they just took it from. Another surprising number of people will try and do their bit for the planet by recycling and continuing to use it throughout the event. Yet more people will keep it for later. Or, our conversation might work out more times than enough, which is not good. And then, unfortunately, there are yet still some people who will just chuck them on the floor. It shouldn't look like we had a miniature bow and arrow fight before dinner. So again, if you can't think of anything else to do with it, tuck it into the napkin under your glass, put the pocket out of the way, or don't take the things with sticks on. Dipping, another socially unhygienic habit. One dip and one dip only. And that includes carrot sticks. You can't dip this end into the dressing, bite it off, turn it over, dip the other end. Half the meatball gone, that sauce is really good, back in again. Please. So again, all of these things we've had to see, we don't like to see. Typically, as a reception comes to a conclusion, give up the glass. It does not look good to walk into dinner clasping a drink. People might think you need that drink to get through the rest of the event. Maybe the case, but don't advertise the fact. What to do with that glass? Put it down on a tray, give it to a server, give it to, put it on a table, whatever else you need to do. Oftentimes we'll call you into dinner before this glass is finished. It's perfectly okay to put down a half-finished drink. It's not Harry's, it's not your 21st. You don't have to chug everything in sight, so put it down. If it is empty, glass goes here, napkin goes here or here, but never here. Again, it's an opportunity for you as you transition from one room to the other to make a stop in the rest. Because again, if you've done a lot of greeting and meeting, you want to make sure your hands are clean. And it's amazing how many people don't feel the need to wash hands. Hands are the easiest way to transfer bacteria, and yet people don't do it. So if you do have to use the restroom, please do it. The other bad habit in restrooms, of which there are many, particularly in airports for some reason, is men feel an overwhelming need to talk business while they're doing their business. And it's just, everyone must know where you are. I mean, there is a background noise here that you don't necessarily want to advertise. So, for 1 minute, turn off the phone. That'd be great. So, making your way into dinner. You may have been told where to sit. Place cards are a vital thing, particularly if you're in charge of a party and you want specific people to go to specific places. It's an ideal method of confirming where people need to sit. Because I know for a fact that if you go to an event and it's social and you don't have somewhere specific to sit, you will gravitate towards someone you've already known. You're sitting next to someone you already met right now, probably. Because you feel more comfortable. When you walk into class the very first day, okay, safe. All right. Now, that's all very well socially, but in business, that's not going to happen. You're going to be meeting people that you've heard about or heard from across the world, across the state, across the city. You've not met them. So you need to have an ability to make people feel comfortable and make them feel welcome quickly. If you need to control where people sit, place cards are the only way to do it. When you get to your place, that's the place you're sitting, that's where you stay. You don't get to the table and think, oh, Dr. McGlothlin, really sorry. So again, stay where you are. Typically when you get to the table, stay standing, because again, you're quite likely to have to do some more meeting. And when we interact with a handshake, it's far better to do that on an eye-level basis. If you're already seated, and someone wants to shake your hand, you feel out of place. If someone comes towards you and you have been seated, get up out of your chair, meet them on eye level. It starts the interaction out on a much better footing. The other reason that we don't want to sit down too soon is it makes other people who arrive at the table a little later feel late. Restaurants have a nasty habit of doing that. They seat somebody at the restaurant table, and then everyone else who arrives feels like they have made a mission or they've come late, which they may not have. But again, just because they're already seated, that seems to spell that. So typically while you're waiting to sit down, just rest the hands on the back of the chair. Don't play with the chair because one day it's going to land you on the floor. How to get people to sit down? Generally give them a signal. What's that signal? Pull the chair out, they slide in, you slide the chair in behind them, boom. It's like a domino effect. Once one person sits down, they all go. But until somebody starts that ball rolling, not going to happen. Helping people with chairs is a courtesy. Gentlemen, it's a very pleasant thing for you to help a lady with her chair. It's not that that lady is incapable of doing it herself, but it's a nice gesture. Ladies, business, you may be hosting, all your guests are men. Reinforce the fact you're in charge. Dr. Jishke, I'd like you there. Mitch, let's have you over there. Bill, let's have you there. Jim, why don't we have you there? And Matt, why don't you go on my right side? Great. Restaurant thinks, she seems to be in charge. We'll give her the bill, we'll give her the menus and all that decision making. Restaurants have a notoriously bad habit of seeing a man and assuming he's the only person who can make a decision. When you sit down, particularly at a table with a tablecloth, put your hand in front of your knee. Push the tablecloth in. If your hand doesn't find a table leg, pretty safe to say your knee is not going to either. If you don't do that check, boom. Sorry. You stand up and sit down again, boom, you do it again. People go, really? A degree? Okay. Bring yourself in close, sit up straight, and put both feet flat on the floor. Why? You look alert, you look awake, and you are minimizing the distance onto which you can spill. First things first, you're going to take that napkin off your place setting, put it onto your lap. Where would it be? Either in the middle of the place setting, in the glass. If you're at the union, it's in the cup, but it comes off the table as soon as possible. It's basically a signal to say to the servers, we're ready to start. Now in Iowa, the napkin has to go over the forks because that protects them from all airborne germs. Weird, but it's one of those strange things. But the napkin has to, by public law, sit over the top of the forks. Napkins, typically about 18 inches square. Even though it's a square, unfold it only halfway. Across the middle here, across the middle here, open side towards you on your lap. Why? Because when you need to wipe something from your mouth, you can use the inside of the mask and show other people. At the end of a meal, a napkin still needs to look like this. It should not be ladies wearing more lipstick than you were at the beginning of the meal. It should never be used to hide half-chewed pieces of food because you've only halfway got rid of the problem. You flourish that napkin, out it flies again, not a good thing. Even if they've asked you questions about public health and statistics, all those other worrying things that you didn't like in college, this is not a good advertisement. So again, keep it neat and tidy. Some people like to go for protection. Protection has its place. The dining table is not that place. Now, if we take you to a lobster restaurant, we give you a lobster bib, by all means tie that on, because everyone else in the room looks as stupid as you do. But generally try and remember the last time you wore a bib. You were probably strapped into a high chair and being force-fed spinach. So again, the other habit favored, unfortunately, by men is the tuck. Guaranteed it's not going to slide off my lap. Guaranteed the server will never have to say, "Sir, drop your napkin again." But I will forget that I've done it. I'll get up to go meet some people on the far side of the room, and I have a kilt. The other problem is that people who tuck napkins in will one day by mistake tuck the tablecloth in too. So if when you get up everything comes with you, best plan, keep walking. Now a lot of times you won't be going to a very formal, fancy dinner with linen, crystal, silverware. We'll take you to what we have as the largest growth area in the hospitality industry, casual dining. You'll have that roll-up of silverware, and if we take you to Scotty's, you've got a towel. Why, I'm not quite sure, but anyway. But you'll have that roll-up of silverware. Still, unroll it, build yourself a place setting, and put that napkin on your lap. Because again, it's a check. From the interviewer's perspective, can you lay a table? Do you know where the forks are? Do you know where the knives should be? You may have managed to get through 4 years of college owning a spoon and a microwave. Because that's what you eat ramen noodles with. But suddenly you're at lunch and you've got 9 pieces of silverware to get through one meal. So again, be familiar with those type of things. I had sent to Dr. McGlothlin today a handout, so if you want some backup information, I think it will be a PDF that will probably appear in Blackboard or something that you can download with 2 place-setting maps that will help you. But typically silverware is there to help you. It's there for a purpose. Generally the number of pieces of silverware corresponded to the number of courses we're serving. So look at a menu. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. People are very nervous about this. Gosh, what am I supposed to do with it all? Generally, silverware has a purpose. Generally, it's there to help. And if you don't necessarily need it all, it's okay. But usually, it's there for a reason. Now, as you travel the world, you will find different silverware setups. In many cases in France, you will have 1 knife and fork. It's used for the salad, and then you get to keep it. You use it for the entree, then you use it for your cheese course, and then it's taken away before you get the single fork for your dessert. So as you travel, as you interact with different nationalities around the world, be aware of those cultural changes. Don't stand out like a sore thumb because you can't understand what's going on. One of the key elements to good etiquette is adaptability and flexibility. Read the situation, understand what is required of you, and then get on with it. Because again, I don't want to see you nervous, I don't want to see you unprepared, I want to see you be able to see what's going on, and then act accordingly. You may have received an invitation. You may think it's going to be formal. You turn up, it's a paper plate and a chicken leg. You can never ever give a host the impression that that is not good enough for you or not what you were expecting. So again, being able to adapt and react to the situation is ideal. So silverware is there for a purpose. Number of pieces will change accordingly. So if we have a spoon on the outside, we need to think about the fact that we may be getting soup. Generally, if you're given a choice, avoid soup unless you're at home. Soup is messy, soup is drippy, dribbly, all sorts of other reasons. A lot of people love French onion soup. Probably the hardest thing to eat in public ever. If you order a bowl of French French onion soup at an interview meal, about halfway through that first mouthful, you're going to regret everything you ever did. Because there are onions dribbling off the side. There's that piece of floating bread in the middle, covered in melted cheese. The cheese is attaching itself to the spoon, to you, the bowl, and everyone's watching. So again, think ahead. If we are serving soup, typically take your soup spoon in your right hand, spoon soup away from you with that first mouthful, and take that first mouthful from the edge of the bowl. As you spoon away, touch the bottom of the spoon on the side of the bowl. Drip will stay here and not here. Heat eating soup, again, because you're nice and close, is to bring that soup all the way from the bowl, all the way up to you. Watch people eat soup in a restaurant, exactly the opposite happens. Bring soup to you. Drink out of the side of the spoon. If you go to Germany, they'll give you a huge somewhere. No, put it away. Drink out of the side of the spoon and drink. No. Good. Okay. Soup is generally hot. Don't give yourself a lesson in thermodynamics. Big spoon from the middle, and it goes. So gauge the temperature from the edge. If the soup is hot, even taking it from the edge, put that spoon down. Engage your fellow guests in a little conversation. Wait for the soup to cool naturally. Don't be caught. When you reach the end of the soup, you may tilt that bowl away from you, pooling remaining soup. Take last delicious mouthful, even if it's great soup. Leave the pattern on the bowl. However, again, if you happen to be in France, you would be allowed to take a piece of bread and then mop up the remaining soup. Basically, you are complimenting the chef by saying, this is so good, I can't get enough of it. So in certain cultures, again, be aware of what is acceptable. All right. So soup is not the easiest thing to eat, so many of us opt instead to salad. Salad is generally simple. However, we like to confuse things again. Instead of calling it salad, we call it a bouquet of wild field greens, artisan grown, hand-washed by several people. And then, to tame those wild field greens, we give you a fork. You may think, agent in public health, I know everything. Fold, 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 dressing, 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 lift. Between plate and mouth, unfold. You took the raspberry vinaigrette, you were wearing a white shirt, we know. How was that raspberry vinaigrette? So, generally at Westwood will give you a salad knife and a salad fork, allowing you to cut things into easier to manage pieces. Many places will elect not to give you that knife, but they will have provided you probably an entree knife. It's yours, you can use it whenever you wish. Rule is that once you've used it, it must then stay on the side of your plate. It cannot go back onto the table. Licking doesn't count. So it stays there on the side of the plate. When the server comes to take away your plate, they may say to you, please keep your knife, in which case you then transfer it over to your bread plate or rest it on the tines of the fork. The other thing to think about is interaction. People are aware of your abilities and how you interact with a variety of different people. You may be trying your best to give a good impression to the person across the table from you, and doing so, you elect to not include the server. You elect not to make them feel as comfortable with you as you can. At the CEO level of hiring, the person who's likely to make the decision over to whether you're hired or not is often the server. We will actually say to the server, what did you think? Because if this person can't interact with a wide variety of people, from the person in the mailroom to the person at the top of the tree, that's not going to happen. So again, make sure that everyone feels well looked after. When somebody brings you something, generally when people give us things, we react by saying, thank you. It's a nice gesture. There are far too many people on the planet who think food is beamed to them somehow. But guess what? Somebody gave it to you. So interact with the server. Generally, if you're polite to a server, they'll be polite to you. Politeness is a two-way street. You ignore a server all the way through the meal, I guarantee it. We can do a fantastic job of ignoring you. We can kick your chair every time we go by. We can do really strange things to your food in the kitchen, and we can stop giving you any wine. So again, be careful. Salad. Not always the easiest thing to eat, so again, be careful. Croutons. Ching, ching. Cherry tomato. Ching, ching. Cherry tomato. Ching. Good. So food is not again, easy. But make wise choices as you move through the meal. Things that need to be passed. Oftentimes the salad will be placed on the place setting, and somewhere on the table will be the dressing. Anyone who is closest to anything that is meant for everyone at the table, your job to initiate serving that without being asked. Use some logic. Here's the salad, there's the dressing. I bet those two things would go really well together. I bet everyone would like some. Light bulb goes on. Yes, I should pass that around. Because you don't want ever to be the person who's asked, could you pass the bread? Could we have the butter? Could you pass the dressing? Even if you are the interviewee, even if you are the star of the show, even if you are the guest of honor, I still need to know what your hospitality abilities are. And that is easily shown by the fact that you look out for other people. There are, again, far too many people who are only concerned with their own little space. And where do we put those people to work? In a very little space. So, look for the bigger picture. Share and be able to look out for other people. Because at some point, no matter what your job, somebody is going to ask you to host. Either guests visiting from another country, coming from another campus, people coming in to prospectively donate money. All of those reasons, you may be asked to host. And if you can show me that you are able to look out for other people, that's a good sign. Other things that need to be passed: bread, cream and sugar, butter. Again, offer, and then if it's offered back to you, take, but send to the right whenever possible. Your bread plate is always going to be on your left side. How do you remember that? Make a B with this hand. B for bread. Your drinks are always going to be on your right. How do you remember that? Make a D with this hand. So B for bread and D for drinks, and you'll always get it right. Because if, unfortunately, one person starts out with the wrong plate, everyone's got to use the wrong plate. And people really don't like it if you eat their bread. They hate it if you drink their water, and they get really mad if you drink their wine. So stick with your own. Typically, don't let the interviewer see you do this. But Dr. Cordova, before she left, she said, I've seen Anthony's program several times, and the only thing I remember is the B and the D. So, it may work. Or somebody may see you do that and think, wow, you're in charge of training. Great, good job, all right. So, again, be careful. Drinks-wise, quite likely you have a glass of water. You can take a drink from that at any time, no need to wait for anyone's permission. We may also serve other beverages. Some of you may have an opportunity in your senior year to take the FS 470 wine tasting class. I highly recommend it, because even if you do nothing to do with public health the rest of your career, I guarantee you'll probably have a glass of wine. So which was the more useful class? This one. Okay. Wine and food go well together. Wine enhances the taste of food. Food enhances the taste of wine. It's a marriage made in heaven, shouldn't end in divorce courts. So wine and food are often likely to be offered. Typically, if the glasses are there already, there are a wide variety of different styles of glass. White wine glasses are smaller than red wine glasses. White wine glasses are closer to you when you first sit down because they go with the earlier courses in the meal. As the meal progresses, we get to the reds. When we say to you, would you care for a glass of wine? Yes, please. No, thank you. Easy. Most people come equipped with these things. You can hear what they say. Would you care for some wine? So tell me, a lot of people use that method of telling me. Yes, it's giving me the same information, but not in a particularly polite fashion. So again, say yes please, say no thank you. If you don't want wine, I'll take the glasses away. Never ever feel you have to explain why you're not taking any wine. It's up to you. You don't have to feel peer pressure. Just say no thank you. If we do pour some white wine, it's going to be a half to 2/3. Red wine, a third to a half. We pour, off we go. Typically wait for everyone to be served at your table, and that goes for food and for wine. Now be careful. Sometimes people will deliberately bring your plate, because you're the guest of honor or the interviewee, they'll bring your plate later than everyone else's. Again, the interviewer has probably told the server to do that ahead of time because we can play tricks on people. What does it mean? You look at your place setting, there's no food. You look around the table, everyone else has something in front of them. What do? You say, please do begin. Most people would say, no, that's fine. But again, it's a test. Are you looking out for other people, or are you only concerned with yourself? One of the things that we tend to bring up at this point, once we have a glass of wine, is people's health. You toast to people's good health. You toast to people's well-being. And toasting is a skill, often lost on sisters of pride and maids of honor. Right? You've all been to weddings, and like 15 minutes later, we're still in kindergarten. Really want a drink? Wait, get over it. Oh. Right. So, if you are the one who's going to be toasting, be prepared. If you're toasting an entire room, stand up so people can see you and hear you. If you're toasting just a table, stay seated. At the appropriate moment, raise your glasses. Now, in this country, it is acceptable to raise any glass with any liquid in it for toasting. If you go to Italy and you do not toast with wine, you're in real trouble. Right? Because it's actually a sacrilegious offense. The host is basically saying, you don't trust me enough to drink with me, you're not going to trust me enough to do business with me. So always have a glass of wine ready for toasting in that country. You will see and hear a lot of all very well. Those are what are evil spirits in certain countries, but you don't need to do it. Simply raise the glass when talking, because otherwise 6 or 7 feet away again. Okay, keep an eye on how much you consume. Now, we've probably pre-poured you a glass of water. Imagine that that is the only glass of water you're going to get, and ration yourself through it, make it last for the entire meal. Why? Because the servers may be asked to leave the room, there's no one there to refill your glass. Now, you're all used to going to the discount den, 64-ounce big gulp free refill mega cups, 10 pops, yes. 12 ounces of water, I could do that as a shot, boom, gone. Right? It's not car bomb time, okay, boom, gone. Right. So, ration yourself through it, because, as you know, physiologically, what goes in, eventually. So if you're constantly having to leave the table to visit facilities, this is why. So slow down. Slow down on these too. Because particularly if we're hosting the wine, you'll be talking to some people over here, and we refill your glass. You talk and we refill your glass. You think, I've still only had the one glass. You've actually had about 3. So if somebody across the table from you is going, or someone hands you one of my favorite little cards that have 2 words written on them, and you turn it over, and it says, stop talking. They work every time because people are, they actually do, and then you can get a word in edgeways. But you don't want to be the recipient of that. All right. Now, should you need to leave the table during the meal for whatever reason, all you need to say to the people on either side of you is, excuse me. Excuse me is a courtesy, it's a pleasantry, and it works for all sorts of reasons. You do not need to tell people where you're going or why you're going. Excuse me works. I'm going to the restroom. Oh, well, okay. Take the napkin off your lap, place it on your chair, put your chair in, off you go. When you return, pick up the napkin, pull out the chair, reseat yourself, and resume your part in the conversation. Now, if you were feeling unwell at that point, yes, then explain to somebody you're not feeling too well, you will be going to the restroom, and if you're not back in 5 minutes, then somebody at least will be alerted to the fact that there may be something else wrong, and they may come and look for you. But generally, you don't need to give anyone too much information. Okay. As we work through a meal, again, we have an entree served. Typically, with your entree, eat as much as you can from the plate if it's pre-presented to you. If you go to a buffet, remember anything that you put on your plate, you should eat. Never be seen to waste food. We live in times where a lot of people in the world have less to eat than they should. And you don't want to be seen as someone who wastes food by filling up your plate and then only eating half of it. Remember, at an interview, you're going to be doing a lot of talking. The interview lunch is not going to be your main nutritional intake of the day. I guarantee it, because people are going to be asking you questions. And generally asking you a question just as a mouthful of food is on its way in. If that's the case, keep going. Chew that mouthful exactly the same way you always would, and use those 10 seconds to think of a better answer to the question. Don't be the hoverer. Because people are thinking, is it? Don't bring the food back out to answer the question. So, again, think. Try as many new foods as possible. Open your eyes to new opportunities. Again, people are looking for broad-minded, experimental people when they hire you. So if there's something on the menu you've never had before, try it. If you like it, you can add it to your repertoire. If you don't like it, you'll know for next time. And if you try it and you like it, delicious. If you try it and you don't like it, unusual, different, not that. Right, so again, be careful. Silverware is not a weapon. We see far too much of this. Some inner cave person appears. It's like, no, it's dead already. Stop. All right. And then we get the cut and thrust dissection method. Or the miter box people. And then the annoying chopping people. We've all heard them. Making that worse. Again, people unfortunately have the view of you across the table. People are watching. There is no Harry Potter invisibility cloak. So ask your friends tonight, tomorrow night, over Easter. I mean, impress your parents on Easter Sunday by eating nicely. You must have gone to college. All right. But if you impress them, it sticks. People will remind you to do that. And if your friends, when you ask them, do I eat nicely? If they say, gosh, what a beautiful day. No, you don't. So practice at home with a mirror across the table from yourself. Watch yourself eat. If you don't like watching yourself eat, that's why nobody else is there, and that's why you're sitting across the table from the mirror. Right. Combine forkfuls. Don't eat by numbers. All the meat, all the greens. So again, try new things. Put silverware down in between mouthfuls. It'll help you pace yourself through the meal. Don't gesture with your silverware. When did that meeting? Or was that you? That's a nice outfit. I like that. Occasionally, people will underline everything they say just to make sure you get the point. Now, pointing was not good. Pointing with a fork, just as bad. Pointing with a knife. You just challenge someone to a duel. People do worse things. We've had the back scratches. We've had the ear cleaners. Chewing gum under the plates, all sorts of wonderful things. So, again, not that it was any of you, but again, things to look out for. It's amazing that you think people's background would allow them not to do that, but it's not true. Another thing just to be careful of, salt and pepper. Don't put it onto your food before you've tasted it. You may all be miraculously good at chemistry. Or close thereon. You cannot look at food and say it needs NaCl. You must then add it. Because interviewers, particularly 2 or 3 companies who come here to campus, will use that as a test. If you're seen to add salt to your food before you've tasted it, interview over. Vice President of Hormel and the Vice President of JCPenney, if they're here, they will say, well, thank you very much for your time. Goodbye. What just happened? You assumed. You made a decision based entirely on assumption. You did not look at the facts. You did not check the facts before you made the change. So taste it first. If you go to an interview with students from other schools who've not had this program, offer them the salt before they pick their fork up. You may be ahead. Okay. To indicate you've finished, put the silverware together about 5 o'clock on the plate. Even if your food is still half full of food, I know you've finished. And it also saves us having to use that awful Indiana phrase, you done? Yes, I think I am. Thank you. Yep, I'm done. All right. Silverware on the side, take it away. Anything that's fallen off your plate during the meal, if you see it before the plate goes, put it onto the plate. That way the evidence goes too. Otherwise, there's a bean sitting there. Dessert, typically again, 2 pieces of silverware, ideal. Hold with a fork, cut with the side of the spoon, remarkably sharp when needed. Pushing that last